Alright, but I'll subscribe.
This is a story of when I met a serial killer on the bus. I was working a construction job late in the city, but lived out in the suburbs. I had done so a couple times before, so I was used to being the only one on the last bus. I really didn't mind since it was a great chance to catch up on some much needed sleep. So it was unusual when the bus stopped. I looked out the window and it was nearly pitch black. There weren't any houses around, so we must have been on one of those random roads before a highway. Then, a man came aboard the bus. At a first glance, he was an older gentleman who was at least in his 50s. But other than that, I didn't pay much attention because there didn't seem to be anything unusual about it. I mean, I was a little curious as to what he was doing at this time of night. But ultimately, that was none of my business. So I put my AirPods back in as he made his way towards the back of the bus. Oddly enough, he chose to sit directly behind me. It was uncomfortable to say the least, so I contemplated moving seats, but I didn't want to be rude. Suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Huh? I asked, as I pulled out one of my AirPods.
I said, I like your boots,
the man repeated. Oh, thank you.
I had a bunch of pairs exactly like it for years and years. A good working boot, you know?
Strange, because I don't take them to the construction type. They definitely are. I use them like every day on the job.
And where's that at?
Turner Construction.
Ah, yes. You're building that big old thing up on East Avenue, ain't you?
Yes, sir. It's gonna be one of the biggest in the city.
So it seems. I used to do construction too, you know. That was way back in the day. Probably when your mama was still just a toddler.
Oh yeah? A company or freelance or...
My papa had a small construction and carpentry business. He hired me on when I was, maybe 15 or so. That was all the way back in 1962. We built houses mostly, a couple small apartment complexes. Nothing as big as what you're working on.
Did you like it?
Boy, you bet your ass I did. Working all day with a free gym membership. Ha! Plus, all the perks that came with it.
Perks?
Can you keep a secret, boy?
Yes, sir.
You ever played a construction site as a child? When I was a little one, me and my buddies would sneak into houses and build and explore. Maybe break a couple bottles here and there.
Yeah. My neighbors and I used to do that too when I was a kid. My house was probably one of the first built in our neighborhood, and the rest came later. We probably explored every house on the block before they were finished, when they were just wood skeletons. Maybe breaking a couple bottles too, to tell you the truth.
Of course you did. Who wouldn't? Given the opportunity. But that's all the childish stuff. The real perks came later in life when I was an adult.
Oh?
Oh yes, boy. Imagine this. The year is 1980 with no cell phones in sight. You talk up a pretty lady at the local bar and hit it up. You tell her about your new construction project. She wants to go somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Well, then you take her there. You and her, all alone, in a skeleton of a home, as you said.
How so?
Well, you don't just take the girl down to the construction site at night just to get your diddly fiddled with. You take her for, you know.
No, I don't know.
For the easy disposal, boy.
Disposal?
Cut the girlie up, or do whatever your preference is. You do whatever you want to do with her, and you put her in the house. You bury her and your stained clothes under there too. Once the job's done, no one's ever gonna see that stuff again. It's gone. Eventually, brand new house is sitting on top of your deed. Well, this is my stop.
older than 6. My friends and I were playing hide and seek. I hid in the crawl space under my front porch, and when I was hiding, I found a pair of boots, half buried in the dirt. The exact same type of boots I was wearing then on the bus. The exact same type of boots we found in the crawl spaces of every house in our neighborhood. Psychopath drug dealer. I had become really close with a friend from work who was going through a rough time. Let's call her Amanda. You see, Amanda's ex-boyfriend knocked her up and left her, so I was making an effort to be there for her. We even always joke about her getting me into trouble or getting me involved in some weird situation, but it was mostly pretty harmless. We'd usually hang out at my place since she'd be stuck at home doing nothing. I would offer to cook for her, and then we'd watch a movie. It was pretty innocent. Anyways, one night, I picked Amanda up from her place, and we headed back to my place. It's about a 30-second walk from the parking lot to my apartment, and I prefer it like that, because I lived there for over a year and really didn't spend much time in it. To be honest, it's not the best area. So there we were, as we walked past a really shady building right next to my apartment. Outside the building, there's this angry-looking dude just staring. I wasn't overly suspicious because I'm just used to all kind of weird stuff. I opened the back door to the building and we headed inside. I'm planning on watching the movie, and I typically like to let it stew for a couple hours. So as soon as I got home, I started preparing the ingredients. Amanda asks,
"Hey, can I get some fresh air?"
and I say, sure, just open the window, make yourself at home. So she heads for the window. Before she can open it, a rock or something really heavy crashes. She jumps backwards. I rush over and look outside, and there he was. The previous angry-looking guy, just screaming, "Come out, you!" I'm thinking, well, he knows where I live. I don't want my friends in trouble. So when I open the door, he comes at me immediately. He starts going on about how I need to watch what I say, and he keeps asking me if I think that I'm better than him. I have no clue what he's talking about, so I ask him, "Who are you?" Big mistake. This just makes him angrier. Now, I think that I should point out that this guy is slightly taller and noticeably bigger than me. Regardless, he tries intimidating me, but I never break eye contact or show any signs of weakness, despite thinking to myself that if it really came down to it, he'd definitely beat the crap out of me. He says, "I own 5 guns and I could bust your kneecaps in. Don't even test me. And I could have 10 come over to your place in the hour to you up, boy." I say, "Look, sir, I have no idea who you are and I'm not looking for trouble." At this point, I start to feel my blood boil. I want to strangle him. But I know that if it got physical, it wouldn't work in my favor, so I stay cool. He demands that I apologize to him. And I'm like, "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I have no idea why you're mad." I think my apology was a sign to him that he was winning this. Whatever this was. So instead of calming down, he steps towards me. And right before he's about to go off again, I hear someone come downstairs. It's Amanda. Now, unfortunately, she's as stubborn as me, and without warning, she tells him off for acting childishly. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, this is it. It's about to go down. But to my surprise, instead of lashing out at her, his demeanor changes entirely. He apologizes. He says that I just make him really mad and piss him off to no end. Which, by the way, he still hasn't explained why yet. After a couple minutes of talking to Amanda, he's completely calm. He looks at me and he asks, "Hey, do you smoke weed?" I tell him, "No, not really." He then proceeds to tell me that he knows my landlord and about how he's a businessman. tells me that he does business with everyone in the apartment block except me. But he has a proposal for me. I choose to hear him out, mostly because he seemed calm now, and I really wanted to avoid getting him riled up again. So he offers me a deal where I hold on to a package for him, keep it in my bedroom, and when he collects it, he'll pay me $5,000. Hold up. $5,000? Now, I was trying to get into university at the time, and that money would have helped me out a lot. So don't get me wrong, I was tempted to say yes. But I declined. Because, well, I mean, he was batshit crazy. So I lie and say, my dad's a cop, and I'm applying to work in a prison as a psychologist, so maybe I wouldn't be the best partner for this business venture. Finally, we head back upstairs, an hour goes by, and it seems like we can put this all behind us. But right when the night seems like it can't get any stranger, I receive a text from an unknown number. I don't know how he got my number, but he sends me the following text. The fact that he has my number concerns me, but I stay cool, and I don't reply. But he sends me the following text. The fact that he has my number concerns me, but I stay cool, and I don't reply. Amanda and I finished the night off by sharing a wonderful meal and watching a horror film together. After that, I drop her off at home, and that was that. I never saw or heard from him ever again. Sometimes, I even wonder if it even really happened. But Amanda confirms every detail.
Need a car even though your credit is perfect. This is drive time. They approve 99% of people who apply because they look at more than just your credit score. So even if your credit is not great, you can get approved. Go to drive.
Hi, my name is Jim. I'm 17 years old, and I will tell you a story about my mother and how she nearly died on a sunny spring day because of my father. Oh yes, strange things do happen. On that day, my mother received a message on Facebook about how her husband had checked into a motel room near the highway, and it seemed that he wasn't alone there. So she left her house and walked through town to get to the motel. It was hard for my mother to walk past her neighbor's house and watch it through the windows. Somebody even left their house to take a closer look. And it's no wonder. My mother had literally led an almost hermetically sealed existence, locked away from the world for almost 3 years. For her, each step was almost excruciating. And it didn't help that they were all looking at her with judgment and disgust. Maybe it wasn't true, but this was probably the reason why her heart was beating faster at that moment, which eventually resulted in her heart attack in the hotel. Oh, one last thing I haven't shared. My mother weighed more than 500 pounds. A long time ago, our family life was perfectly normal. I wouldn't necessarily say that we were particularly happy, but everything was normal. My mother, father, and my 3 younger brothers and sisters lived together in a small house on the outskirts of a little Texas town. The only person who earned money in our family was our father. My mother was a housewife and never worked. Honestly, we could hardly make ends meet with our father's salary. He didn't have a profession that was in high demand, and the unemployment rate in our town was high. So, our family was pretty poor. Still, I don't remember that I was really in need of anything in my childhood. It wasn't until the age of 12 that I understood what real poverty meant. My youngest brother was less than 6 months old when our father dumped our family. I don't remember exactly how it happened. You know, sometimes our brains just black out some of the awful episodes in our minds. I think that's what happened in this case. All I remember now is that it was late at night when my father packed his things and left in his old car, leaving the garage open. And in the morning, Mother found a note there. It said that he couldn't live with us anymore, that this life was eating him up and he could not stand this endless family routine that didn't bring him any happiness. That was why he was leaving us in order to move to South America, while it was not too late, at least for him. Father didn't leave us any contact information, so we never found out if it was true or not. He didn't even tell us the name of the country he was going to. My mother was broken, and the news had nearly killed her, for 2 reasons. First, after her husband just up and left, she was all alone, with 4 kids, with no work, with no money. Even without found out about my father's disappearance in detail, including the contents of the note he left. Well, you have to understand, when people know each other for so many years, it's hard to keep this news a secret. News would spread immediately, even when our parents were little. And now that every house has the internet, it's even worse. My mother was ashamed he had to know, and she really felt humiliated. Well, from that day on, I suddenly had to grow up. I was the oldest man in the family. Now I had to take responsibility. Of course, I couldn't take on a lot when I was 12 years old. So for some time, our family barely existed on government assistance. But as soon as I could start working officially, I got a job at the nearest car wash, where I've worked until now. Work was not too hard, and the owner of the car wash was nice to me, but I didn't have any free time. I was always busy, at school, at work, or at home, where I had to share all the housework with my sister, cleaning, cooking, and looking after the younger ones. You might ask why I had to share all this with my sister. The thing is that my mom just completely stopped being herself and wasn't able to take care of us. For several years after my father left us, my mom tried to hang in there, but she couldn't fight her depression any longer. She became very sad. She even had problems going out to eat because she thought that everyone in town would look at her, some with pity, some with